Welcome to Inferno 2024. I am Jerry. This is Rauta channel, and this time we have one of the long-running black metal veterans from the Norwegian scene, Keep of Kalessin. Let's start introducing the man of the hour. Sure, welcome to Rauta. Please state your name and role in Keep of Kalessin.
Thank you so much. My name is Ar Obsidian, and I am the lead singer and the guitarist and founder of Keep of Kalessin. So I founded the band back in 95, I think, together with a couple of other guys from my hometown. Of course, as many other bands, there are different members in such a long-lasting band. So it wasn't until like 2013 that I actually started doing the vocals myself as well. As we had also Attila Sihar, that many of you guys know from Mayhem, of course. He was also doing a little bit on one of our EPs. We had a couple of other singers, but I decided in 2013 that instead of changing the lineup all the time, I'm the main man. I write the music, I write the lyrics, and basically it's my vision. So it was easier to just go full ahead and also do the vocals as well as the guitarist myself. So
yeah, Keep of Kalessin has been more or less your vision throughout almost 30 years, which is a lot by now. I mean, it seems really the time flying, because back in the late 90s, I remember Keep of Kalessin is this new Norwegian black metal bands, when you have, as opposed to the bands that came out in like 1987 or 1990. And now, almost 30 years later, it seems like you have been a long-running band, changing shape, changing lineup, and all that stuff. And before the interview, we mentioned you talked about the other bands, live member, session member. Your story goes beyond Keep of Kalessin. You've been in a man of many places. Can you share some of the other names you've been part of?
Absolutely. The thing was that in my hometown of Trondheim, there was not that many people who kind of made a professional career, if you can call it that, inside of metal. So we had some issues with the lineup, and it was not working well after the two first Keep of Kalessin albums. And so I actually, at the Inferno festival back in 2001, I think, or 2002, I auditioned for Satyricon, and I became a live member for Satyricon for 5 years, headlining Wacken open air, headlining big festivals, of course.
I've seen you at that Wacken in 2004 when you played Dark Throne songs.
Yeah, and we played the Dark Throne songs together with Nocturnal Culto.
I remember that.
So I also did that. It was amazing to be part of course, because I kind of grew up with the Oslo scene and the Bergen scene, and as you mentioned, we were a little bit behind. It was not in the early 90s, but more towards the late 90s, mid to late 90s. Our first album was in 97, second album in 99. You know, so we were like looking a lot up to those type of people and bands.
The older times.
And to be sharing the stage on such big tours and festivals all of a sudden was amazing, of course.
Yeah, it must have been a great time to be alive in so ways, because I mean, we all remember how the 90s was like. Suddenly a lot of things were changing. You had a lot of new second wave black metal bands after the 1980s first wave, and 90s were bursting with new names like Mushrooms in 80 season, and suddenly you were like, okay, these guys play more melodic style. These are the raw kind of, and you went more into not exactly the symphonic level of Emperor, but you went for the more melodic and also keyboard.
Yeah, the thing was that I always say that we play epic extreme metal. We had a kind of, the first two albums were more ordinary black metal, and it was nothing special in my view. Even though I meet people actually here at the festival every single year that loves these two first albums from the 90s. But then again, I think things started to change for us when I became part of the live band for Satyricon. I saw kind of that, okay, we have actually something to offer from the Trondheim scene as well. I felt that we had skills. I just started playing in one of the biggest bands from Norway at the time, because this was actually before a lot of the other names grew even bigger. But again, I just realized that, okay, we do have something to offer, so I started working a little bit. So I had an EP, and it was Frost from Satyricon on drums, and it was Attila on vocals.
Yeah, people still remember.
And this was the Reclaim EP, where I kind of restarted the band again because I see that, okay, I want to have my type of playing out there. I want to do my own stuff as well, not only play and be a live guitarist, you know. And then after that EP, we got a lot of attention. Of course, a lot because of the lineup, but also because of the style of playing, because there was not many playing that type of guitar riffing, really fast machine gun type of black metal playing at the time. And then we did an album called Armada, and this took it to a different level where we are epic, we are very melodic, but it's not based around the keyboards. It's actually the guitar melodies. And one of our albums, we had a top producer who has done a lot of big bands, and he was like in the studio, he was like, I cannot do this anymore because I came with like so many guitar tracks. I was thinking in terms of symphony on the guitar, instead of adding violins and everything going in different directions melodically. I just added guitars, you know, so we had a totally different approach, I think, and we got a lot of attention for especially the Armada album and the albums that came after as well, where it was clear that we were melodic, we were also epic, but not in the same style. It's totally different than Dimmu Borgir. It's totally different than Emperor as well. Even though I would say there are similarities. So basically, it was that if you take a lot of thrash metal, you take 80s heavy metal, power metal, you take black metal, death metal, all that in a big pile, and you stir it together. A lot of the times, I think bands who have death black, they have one riff that is a little bit black, another that is a more death metal oriented. Yeah. But for us, it was more like, okay, all these type of genres melted into one different approach.
So instead of keeping it separate, you wanted to like glue it together.
Yeah. So in one riff, you can hear that. Okay, what is this? Because it's different, but it has a lot of thrash metal to it. It has a lot of death metal to it, and it has also a lot of black metal and even power metal to it. You know, because basically it's everything I grew up in.
Well, yeah. So, today when I was when you started to gig today, and I was watching it, I was like, this is kind of like Norwegian Creator, but with a black metal drumming in a way. So that thrash metal presence was very much right there, and it totally separates from a lot of more, say, traditional, especially Norwegian and Swedish type of black metal. Like you're having the elements a lot of bands are missing, and I guess a lot of people love that. But I know that from the, success of traditional black metal being loved, like every other band wants to be Satyricon or Gorgoroth or whatever it may have, you also must have had hard time convincing the audience, like, this is the stuff that you should like.
It is difficult, you know, because it's very easy to copy someone. It's very easy to, not only musically, but also image-wise, right? If you're like, okay, let's just do a black metal band, right? I think it's easier to kind of get up to a certain level just by just being black metal, basically, right? For us, I think it's more difficult because people are like, is it power metal all of a sudden, or is it black metal, or where are these guys? Because we are basically all over the place, and the reason for that is because we love. I grew up with 80s heavy metal. I grew up with Halloween and some bands like that as well, and I still love them today, you know. But I also grew up with black metal and death metal. So we, like I said, we have taken all this type of different genres and compiled it down to something unique of our own.
Something that is.
But I can understand that it's a little bit more difficult for some people to kind of understand it because it's not so clear in the message unless you actually hear it a few times, you know. And the layers, if you take the layers if you're thrown, let's say, information at you, and this is actually science, right? If you take information, and the more information you pour onto a person that has a certain level of understanding, the more difficult it actually is, right? And that's why I love albums that you hear 10 times. The first time you hear it, it's like, okay, maybe there's something there. The second time, it's like, okay, there is something there. I want to go deeper into this. And then all of a sudden, after 10 listens, it's like, what the fuck?
Finding the details.
And you keep with these albums for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years after you heard them, right? in today's market, I can see that having albums that have so much information thrown at you at the same time, it's different than you have the keyboard here, you have the guitars here, and it's very distinct from each another, you know. But with us, everything is like this, and it's all thrown at you at the same time. So it's overwhelming sometimes. And I heard a lot of people actually say this, that, you know, it took me such a long time, but once you get it, once you truly understand it, then it's another level for people.
So could we even make the claim that Keep of Kalessin is one band for acquired taste?
Absolutely. I think it is. Even though I personally feel that a lot of the people that would sit down and listen to Keep of Kalessin, they would totally love it. I think if they gave it a little bit more time, I think they would actually love it, because there is something there for everyone, and that's the thing.
Can we call it even a mainstreamish flirt?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we use pop build-ups in the songs. We have melodic choruses, stuff like this. And I'm not afraid of being commercial or going a commercial route, but at the same time, we never done that for just being commercial. We've done it always because there's something we believe in. There's something we have to offer. There's something that we actually like ourselves. I never released stuff that I think this is not so good, but I will release it if I sell more albums. But then I have a very commercial taste at times.
So is this the place where I can ask about the Eurovision contest?
Yeah.
Because that was, I guess, a lot of people like, what are these guys doing? Like, you were not afraid to go beyond the borders, that a lot of black people would be like, we cannot go there because it's too commercial and it's too poppy, like you said. But I mean, you went to take this challenge in a way, and you went for it. It didn't fly that well, but at least you did it.
It was, I guess it was okay. When I look back at it now, it's like, would I have done it again? Probably. But for us, it was actually a huge risk to do it at the time, because we did not have the foundation as a band that had the credibility maybe to actually pull off a stunt like this. But at the same time, it was like the reason why I did it. First, we started we saw in the media that they were seeking also black metal bands or metal bands for this. Was very early for. It was not usual that metal bands. You had some heavy metal bands, but more like show bands.
Like all different.
Yeah. For instance, it was not for credible bands to do Eurovision at the time. Maybe not even today. But then again, this is what baffles me with this mentality, and that's why if you read our lyrics, we have a lot about this dogmatic break the dogmatic mindset. Don't limit yourself based on fear of what others might think of you. Stuff like this is in all our lyrics almost, because I'm a believer in breaking the boundaries. I'm a believer. For me, metal started out to be actually a genre for people who dare walk their own path.
A rebel in a way.
Yeah, rebel. And then all of a sudden, we are in the biggest fucking box of all, because you cannot move inside this box unless it's credible enough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that is totally opposite of what metal is to me and always has been. And the fun fact, the first person who actually sent me a message said, "Fucking great, thumbs up, I love it." Mm-hmm. When it was announced that we were joining Eurovision, that was Nocturno Culto. So the most credible guy of all was the first one to congratulate me, and he loved that we actually did it, because he understood that to break the chains that at the time was in the Norwegian black metal scene or worldwide black metal scene, you could not go more dark. You have Abruptum, you have Darkthrone, you have all these dark bands, and Darkthrone, even from Soul's Journey, they kind of changed the narrative, right? They said that, we don't want to be in this death metal box anymore. Mm-hmm. So they broke out and kind of was part of creating black metal.
Yeah.
But in 2010, what are you going to do? I go even more dark.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard to...
Yeah. What you do, you go so commercial that people will freak out. And that's what happened. people were like, Arnt, you cannot do this. What are you doing? You're going to destroy everything. It's like, okay, so a band that would not do it because they were afraid of losing album sales, because they were afraid of damaging their career. What is that? That is actually sellout. To not do something you want to do because you're afraid. You won't take this risk because we might sell less albums after. Then it's like people were calling us sellouts because we did this, but it's the opposite.
Yeah,
the point is that's the actual opposite, because we were the one who risking actually our careers at the time, and our label. I remember we had a conversation with the production team of the Norwegian Eurovision, So we had a production team meeting with them, and they said, basically, it's up to you guys. If you guys want to do it, we will support you. You can do it. Arnt, you will make all the decisions on clothing, everything. We will not force you into anything, but you decide if you want. We want you part of the show, and if you want to do it, let's do it. But it's up to you. Then I called my label manager, and he said, and I said to him, hey, we just was offered the opportunity to be part of the Eurovision in Norway, and maybe we can win internationally, but or go win Norway and go internationally. But first, we are offered now to be a part of the Norwegian Eurovision. And the label manager was like, "No, don't do it. You will fuck up everything. You're on such a good way, and you will lose everything." I said, thank you. I hadn't decided until this phone call. But because of this phone call, I'm fucking gonna do it, but that just proves my point even more. Yeah. Should we? Because I thought it was cool. I think that if there's something we want to try that no one has actually tried, to have a metal band in Norwegian Eurovision like this. And the strange thing, I mean, this is where it gets so crazy with all people and their opinions on everything. It was okay to be a part of the Grammys.
Yes.
But the fun fact. It's the same stage. It's actually the same production company, the same production team, the same TV channel. It's the same time. It's a Saturday at the same time. It's the same stage. It's the same everything. It's just called Norwegian Grammys. But the other one is called Eurovision. No, then we cannot do it. And I'm like, yeah. So the year before we were part of the Norwegian Grammys, everyone was, yeah, fantastic. Yeah. The year after, we were part of Eurovision, and you have a whole bunch of people, oh no, what they did, they destroy metal, But how, I mean, I can understand it if you're 14, 15 years old that they run around with the turn crosses or whatever. But at the time we were in our 30s, right? So it's like you have a different perspective, I think, on stuff, and I think that we should not limit ourselves. And I don't think anyone should do that. I don't think metal bands should be limited about being so afraid of breaking some boundaries and stirring up a little bit. Because I knew we were doing that. Stir up the pot a little bit and make some noise instead of just conforming to what others think of you all the time.
Well, that gives him a good example about Metallica being the biggest.
Exactly.
They always do what the hell they want.
Yeah.
People can bitch about their, mouths and all that stuff, and they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And they still do that stuff. So I definitely understand. And coming back to the Grammy thing, I remember, when I was reading it about for the first time, so the actual black metal band started getting the nominations, and it felt so weird. But at the same time, we in the other countries were reading that, okay, Norway is actually, embracing black metal as something like cultural thing, like a part of the country's heritage, rather than saying like, oh, these are the guys who burn down churches, these are the guys who oppose, whatever government or more like church-related religions. But Norway was something like, yeah, we got your back. Like, welcome to the music industry, please bring your belongings.
Thanks for burning down the church. Here's some more money funding your tour.
How do you feel things have changed from the 90s to these days when things are more acceptable coming from the extreme metal scene? Like you said, Dogmas becoming, and other bands coming from the death metal department and changing to black metal and having the strong imagery. Bands like Mayhem doing crazy shit. And suddenly everything that was super dangerous and super anti-cultural are like, okay, come in.
Well, there are two worlds, I think. The point is that I also enjoy my black metal, like real black metal. Sometimes I go back to older albums and really listen to the good old era of black metal, if you know what I mean, right? From the early 90s and stuff. And for me, that is not destroyed by someone being on TV now in 2024, you know, because I can still cherish those albums. But I think it becomes a problem for people sometimes if they are not able to. It's like, oh, now Metallica is doing all this stuff. I don't like them anymore. Yes, but the music on Master of Puppets is exactly the same.
Yeah, it doesn't
right?
move anything from that.
But this is interesting because that's why, I mean, people listen more with their opinions or with their eyes, actually, sometimes, instead of actually listening with their ears and what emotions. And sometimes you have one of the great examples is The Prodigy. You guys know about The Prodigy, right? They had an album out before they became Prodigy. They had an album out and it failed miserably because they had some history with the band, that band name or whatever. And then they re-released the same album under the new name, The Prodigy, and it went straight to the top. Because they said I saw this documentary and they said this, we knew that this was great club music, but people's opinions were in the way of them understanding that it actually was great club music. And I think that so many times I see it also, especially in metal, especially in the more dark you go, in black metal, the more black it is, the more people are prone to not actually having ears to actually hear the music. They care more about the image, they care more about a lot of these things around. I'm a musician, so I listen first and foremost, hopefully, with my ears, you know, but people's perception of stuff sometimes get in the way of bands' careers. They can make or break careers, and sometimes people are just stuck in this paradigm where someone and everyone around agrees that this is cool or this is not cool.
Kind of a posture thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? Be an individual, and that's what black metal and metal is to me. You know, be an individual, be man enough to actually have your own opinions about stuff. And I think that is also one of the biggest statements in Keep of Kalessin music and lyrics. Is that, and it just proves that with the Eurovision, with everything in our career, you know, that we actually dare to do what we want. We dare to risk it.
So you don't really give a fuck?
No, basically not. But you know, it's difficult not to give a fuck because sometimes you do this thing and you think that, and maybe you read all this bullshit, and it's like you just have to go through it again. Okay, why did I do this? Yes, oh, that's why, you know, because I'm true to myself first and foremost, and not try to conform to everyone else around, you know. But I will admit, I think all artists have that challenge sometimes, where you kind of feel it a little bit difficult to be this in war all the time with maybe even your fans sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking, because I mean, being done some music myself as well, I mean, there's always this like two worlds. At the same time, you're kind of catering to the needs and wants of the audience, because actually you're making music for the audience, not your own bookshelf or whatever. Like, hey, I had this great demo recordings, we'll never play it to anyone. Yeah. And at the same time, you want to be true to yourself, like whatever vision you have, you want to do your own thing, and you have to balance things out. Now, my question about it, how have you, in your opinion, changed from the time when you was this rebellious, say, 20 years old, and now that in your 40s or closer to 50s or so, and you're like, okay, life is different. How do you see these two worlds?
Well, I'm actually more rebellious now, but at that time I was more rebellious about society and normal people, you know what I mean? Which I think is like this juvenile thing that you go through. But now today, I am actually more rebellious about what I'm talking about here. So I would say that in terms of conformity within the metal scene, I'm more rebellious now than ever. But back in the day, I was more part of it, not the rebel in it, but I was more part of it, and we were rebellious about, governments, about society as a whole, which is like a little bit of the punk rock kind of mentality, or the metal mentality, black metal mentality at the time. That it was something different. You felt a connection with people that did not think exactly as everyone else. But that's the challenge with these kind of environments, is that the more you think like this, the more equal you are, because suddenly you are in a small circle where your thoughts are maybe not your thoughts anymore. You understand what I'm saying?
You're kind of becoming part of this.
Yeah, you're becoming this. So you were against the people who are against something, like truly against something and for something, is exactly the same mindset. They have
kind of a horseshoe effect.
Yeah. So they basically have that fundamental same mindset, and I am more of, at least I'm trying to, for my own personal growth. I'm trying to kind of clear any kind of dogmatic mindset, and maybe ask questions about, why am I thinking like I am thinking? Why is this important to me? Why is everything around the environment or society as a whole? So I try to ask not just questions and make own statements, but actually ask myself questions to become more aware. This is introspection, as our one of our songs, right? And introspective type of thoughts, but also universal kind of questions, and all this is very much written into a lot of our music right now. That is so. To your question, I would say that actually today I'm actually more rebellious than I ever was, but I'm not rebellious against government or society or stuff like this. I'm more rebellious about people thinking like people not asking questions about, not only questions about the state, government, or black metal, stuff like this, but themselves. I think a lot of people lack a little bit of
the courage to challenge things.
Yeah, and also self-reflection.
Yeah,
because I talk to a lot of people, and it seems like a lot of people don't self-reflect that often or that much as they might should have. I don't know. Does it make a better life? Probably not. But at least I'm, like I said, so I'm actually more rebellious today, I think, about... it's not I want to be rebellious just to be rebellious. I just need to do what I want to do.
Like rebel with a cause.
Yeah. It just tends to become rebellious anyway, because it's if I write Keep on Kalessin music, if I write the lyrics, then suddenly it's very different, and suddenly people have so many opinions about this or maybe other things, and I'm just like, I just like to be able to express myself over here without any of this noise over here sometimes.
Now, I gotta say, first time I was in Norway was at Inferno 2004, and I remember back in the days that how many churches there all the way, and then I was like, okay, this makes sense how the people back in the 90s were so upset with the church being covered in things, and still today, like this weekend, Easter, which is perfect for vacation and all, people are like, okay, where can I buy beer, when I can buy this and that? No one, because Jesus says so.
Yeah.
In a way. How do you still feel about this part that while Norway is very liberal and modern society, and yet at the same time there is religious dogma saying like, no, you cannot go to bars on Easter Thursday or Friday because of this? Have these things which were so much in the core of black metal changed for you over the years?
Yeah, but I would say that there are other things than just the religious aspect of the lawmaking that frustrates me more. even though a lot of it is based around a lot of this, on Sundays you cannot go to a normal store, stuff like this. I think that people should just be able to be themselves as long as there are no harm to others and stuff like this. Do what they want, build businesses if they want, without too much regulation on anything, basically. I'm a freedom fighter. I believe in freedom.
Will you die as a free person?
Well, probably not, because I think that most of us are actually not that free. Because it comes to a financial situation, we have to do a lot of bullshit that we might not want to do because of finances sometimes. We have limitations on like you say about when we can go to a bar or when we can go into the shop. There are so many limits and limitations, and this is like one of a great author and a philosopher basically from Norway that said this about the view on government was like they were chosen, elected. They were elected to be our servants, right? Because in a democratic society, they were elected to be our servants, but they treat us like they're our masters,
which is very fucked.
Which is the opposite of what their job is, right? And I think that is stuff that more. So some of it comes from religion, and I'm not a religious person. I believe in science. I'm a huge believer in science and technology and facts, basically.
Same page.
Yeah. So, but I guess when we were younger in the black metal scene, we were more like more expressive about it. Today, I come to the conclusion that whatever you use energy on trying to pull something down, whatever you use energy on, if you hate on something, this is also from our lyrics. A life lived in hate will just seal your own fate. That's from the introspection lyrics. Basically, what I'm saying there is that if you focus negative energy, you will get more negative energy back, right? If you try to destroy something over here or talk something down, so in my later years, in the last couple of decades, basically, I become more relaxed and say, you know what? I do my shit over here. You do your shit over there. Fantastic. Whatever you do, I don't care as long as it doesn't affect me that much, But then it comes to stuff like you were talking about. If you feel those restrictions too much on your body or body, mind, and soul, basically, then it becomes a problem. But the more you kind of just understand how society is working and just try to go with the flow and not be too negatively focused. I think there was a time in my life that I just kind of woke up. I had this kind of epiphany where I was like, you know what? I'm using too much time focusing on what I have not achieved. I'm using too much time on focusing on what I cannot do.
Instead of
focusing on
what you can do, what you have done.
Yes. But this is not only me, because if you see the metal scene, especially the metal scene, I would say, people are more focused on talking shit about the bands they don't like instead of talking positively about and supporting the bands they actually like.
That's something that I can totally relate to.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes people focus more like by talking down, like, hey, I didn't like this show or did festival or whatever, and more like, why don't you talk about the good stuff?
Yeah.
Is it the negativity that feeds actually us?
Yeah, but the thing is, we had a discussion actually yesterday with the band when we were rehearsing. We were talking about this, about the mentality of people and also society as a whole. And we came to, in the metal scene, people tend to think that we are not as everyone else, right? We are metalheads and we are very different. Yeah, you like different music and you like maybe different conversations and the topics might be different. Absolutely. But then we started talking about the tabloid. We think that in metal we don't have tabloid media as we do. Okay? It's exactly the same.
Exactly.
People tend to, if it's easy clickbait in these days, people click on this stuff. And if it's controversy stuff, then people click on that. If it's the more negatively focused it is, the more tabloidish the story is, the easier to get clicks, the easier to grow a band as well. When it comes to creating that kind of stir, which is basically also why black metal got a lot of controversy. There was a lot of controversy, got a lot of attention back in the early 90s. Absolutely. Murders,
arsons, everything scandalous.
Absolutely.
What is your? You need to do something like. Could you?
What?
No, just joking. Well, let's start a bomb
for this.
Let's add a clickbait at this.
Yeah.
But I totally agree that it seems like philosophical topics and constructive mindset seems to be a rarity, as opposed to say something nasty and shitty, and then you make your headlines.
You know this saying, "What you focus on grows." Have you heard this saying? Whatever you focus on is what is growing. This means that if society is focused on negativity, if you are very focused on wars, if you're very focused on all negative, if you go into any kind of newspaper, basically 99.9% of all the headlines is negatively charged, right? Because it sells.
Is it basically the negative thing? It sells, but who's buying?
Yeah, basically. So it has been around for decades. This is nothing new. Yeah. I know that, but still, I think if more people would awaken a little bit to, I mean, I haven't actually gone into any newspaper for 15 years, 20 years. Earlier, I used to go into newspapers and you read kind of the news for the day or whatever, but I haven't read a fucking newspaper I can't even remember. And it's liberating. It is like, because what you feed your mind, we are what we consume. If you eat a Big Mac burger every single day, you'll feel like shit, right? But we tend to care a little bit more about what we put into our mouth in regards to food than what we put into our mind in regards to junk food for the mind, because we go there on Snapchat and TikTok and go, it's a funny cat video, and the more cat videos you like, the more you get. Suddenly you're drawn into this rabbit hole of stuff that is not building your life, that is not creatively building you up as a person, that is also maybe destructive to society, because we are a society, and the more we could actually have positive focus on what we should achieve, what can we do. And I think that was also, even though the stories in the media were a lot of negativity in the early 90s, I know for a fact that there was this huge creative wave where people were building, okay, now Satyricon did this album, we're going to do this, now they did this, and so the bands were really like pushing each other, positive
competition,
but a positive competition, So what comes out in media, but now today with social media and easy access to absolutely everything, I think it's a little bit of a scary road to see where society's focus is, because what you focus on is what's growing, right? So the more focus in that direction, the more growth in that direction. The more you focus on wars, the more wars we're going to get, basically, right? So
it's a very, very good to summarize things. All right, but no, unfortunately, we're running out. I think we definitely need part 2.
Yeah,
someday.
Probably.
But before people forget, we're actually talking about music and a band. Let's go for a couple of seconds back to Keep of Kalessin.
Yeah.
Now, if there are now people, I hope, people are like, okay, I like the mindset of this guy, I like the mindset of this band. How is the music like? And I tend to have this habit. Don't say your latest album, but say something else that people should start with, like some of your favorite songs or maybe your favorite album, apart from the latest one.
Yeah,
what do you say to people?
But I have to actually correct you there, because you say apart from the latest one, but I would say that people should actually start with the song The Omni that is on the latest album. Okay. That track, because that track is a epic extreme metal that is the essence of Keep of Kalessin. we put so much effort into trying to just nail that. What are we about?
That one song.
Yeah, that one song. I think it's like 7, 8, or maybe even 10 minutes long. It's an epic track, and it has all kind of the elements that separates us from other type of bands. So I would start with that song, and then I would go to tracks from Reptilian album. The opening track, Dragon Iconography, is the opening track on
Which
Reptilian.
is kind of like the easier way to get it.
Well, I would not maybe say easier, but it has a lot of different type of elements. It has thrash metal elements. It has a little bit of black metal elements. It has atmospheres. It's both direct and very eclectic. So I think that those 2 tracks would be a great start. We actually have a playlist out. So we do have a playlist out there that is called Epic Extreme Metal. You can go into that playlist, and I have selected the tracks that I think puts Keep of Kalessin in a different category in the metal scene. That's actually a good start for everyone. The Epic Extreme Metal playlist that I made.
No, people make note. Now, one last word to the wise. If you would give something to the younger audience, I want to have my own band, and you could give some tip or 2 to the younger people who want to be the next Keep of Kalessin while you go and retire. Not yet, but
it's very soon.
maybe 3 decades, but
but I would say that just go out there and do it. Make a decision to actually make it happen, and then connect with people. Be at the Inferno festival like this, because I remember me as well. I connected with a lot of labels back in the day when I was starting out. I connected with people that were in the scene because I was around somewhere where the labels were, and one of the easiest ways is actually at the Inferno Festival and the Inferno Conference, because then you meet some people who can get you on that next step, so just decide and connect. And I also see, when I started out, I did that, but I see the bands that's coming after us as well, the next kind of wave. I see those who were, when I was like in my late 20s and 30s and early 30s, I saw like kids hanging around at the pre-parties for the record labels and stuff here at Inferno. But these are people now playing in pretty big bands, So it's always, you can actually see it. It's determination. Everything is determined by your determination. Decide that you will make it happen. Go out there and just figure it out. Find a way to do it. Because either you will be picked up by a bigger band so you can start playing for them, or you will be learning the business and just by being in this environment,
Well, lots of wisdom in those words. I thank you for all this time.
Thank you so much.
Now, people, pay attention to these wise words. There are lots of nonsense, lots of atmospheric talk about nothing, and then you have some really smart takes, be it philosophical takes, be it about being in the music industry and being able to be bold, courageous yourself. So take these words to you, I hope, give the music a chance, and when you get the chance, go see Keep of Kalessin live. Now, this is Rauta, this is Inferno 2024. See you on this other side. Stay metal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots of deep talk. I would love to take this for hours, but we have to draw a line somewhere. Now, before you go, let's, if you don't mind, let's take a quick photo. This is used for social media purposes. When the interview goes out, it's going to be like